We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Welcome to Born to be a Sports Agent, where I deliver legal and contract insight for sports professionals navigating hiring, firing, injury, and representation.
I was gonna, with respect to your time, I was gonna shift the focus a little more to the recruiting process
Sure.
and as well as dealing with sports agents.
Mhm.
So first, I just kind of wanted to start off with what is the recruiting process like when you're recruiting players, and how do you go about recruiting a player?
Well, that right there is the whole enchilada. That's a big question. Okay. Uh, and let me tell you something. It's different today than it was last year, and it was different last year than it was the year before. And we talk about what it was like back in the day, and back in the day was 48 months ago. Okay. But in this ever-changing world of NIL and transfer portal, which puts me in a really bad place to talk about it. Because it has created an interesting dynamic where I can honestly tell you, we can talk about recruiting, but I don't even recognize the profession I'm in anymore. Okay. I went in the profession for the relationships and the service. And it's like, what a great way to make a living, make it being a difference maker in a young person's life. Okay. Um, Everything I learned about recruiting, and I've known Jill's dad 3 years longer than I've known her. Okay. So I worked for her dad. So she'll tell you, I came pre-approved. Okay. Um, Everything that I learned from people like her dad was about how to build a relationship based on credibility and trust, right? Like, am I a credible coach? Can I take this person where they can't take themselves? Can they trust the fact that if I tell them something, that it's going to work? All right. And that has all been basically derailed and intercepted by something called money. Because if I get on the phone, it's like everything I've done my whole career about, yeah, this is how we do it. This is how we would use you in our offense. This is, man, I really think you could be successful in college because these are the things in your transcript. Is this one you want to major in? And it's like they sit there like this and go, yeah, okay. How much am I gonna get paid? And I'm telling you what, it disgusts me. It disgusts me to my core. Okay. And I'm like, if you want to talk about money, you go talk to the GM. Okay. I'm here to talk to you about playing football. Okay. And it's not quite as severe as what I just mentioned, but then again, it is. And the other problem that we're dealing with in our game right now is nobody has enough money. Because if you're at Fresno State and we've gone from 350,000 in our NIL budget to like 4 million, well, Boise's got 7 million, but Oregon State and Washington State got 11 million, but Utah's got 20 million. Arizona State's got 25 million. Oklahoma State's got 28 million. Oklahoma's got 35 million. Well, Texas has 50 million, but LSU's got 58 million. No matter who you are, you don't have enough. And the problem we have is because of the antitrust laws, you can't really make a student an employee. So we're paying these guys like CEOs, okay? And they don't even know what a 401k is, okay? So, when you're paying somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's big business, if you ask me. And they're running the business like it's a Kool-Aid stand, you know? And so you can hear the passion coming out in me, but how do you recruit a kid? I don't even know. Because I'm trying to do it the traditional way. And what they're interested in is how much you're going to pay me. And then I'll stay for a year, but if somebody will pay me more, I'm going to leave. I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think there's a lot more to the game than just the money aspect.
Mhm.
You were mentioning like you build the relationship through trust, credibility. How did you go about doing that?
Well, number one, like I say, champions love the work and wannabes love the idea. Okay. You sit there and you study and you work and you create systems, because it's only one of three things. It's either the player, it's the system, or it's the coach. Okay. And you create systems that you can document, and then you show that, to an athlete, and you show them where they fit, and you show them how you're going to develop them and those kinds of things. And then if you can, you can show documented results over time. Right. But that's how it's done. Trust is a simple process of making a promise and keeping it. Okay. I'm really not. Don't take this as an offhand example. It's like, we're going to have a Zoom call tonight at 7, but it happens at 7:45. You see what I mean? Okay. Well, yeah. And my wife will tell you how good I am at returning phone calls and showing up on time. Okay. Not very good. Okay. But when it comes to football, I'm not a minute late. I'm, whatever. Okay. But, husband and wife, that's a relationship that has to be based on trust. But a football team is much more complicated, because there's 105 players and 25 coaches and strength coaches. It's an organization of 150 people that have to function with one heartbeat. Right. So, at the end of the day, trust is built through care, competence, and candor.
Thank you. I do appreciate your passion on this subject. I was informed that you are not as passionate about sports agents and you're not as big of a fan, but I was going to shift the focus to that.
Good information.
What has your experience been like working with or around sports agents?
Well, here's the deal. What Jill does is excellent, because, she has to be certified every year by the NFLPA, as a certified contract advisor. She has to know the ins and outs of the collective bargaining agreement, has to have the ability to understand what a good contract is, what a bad contract is, what are the things that are changeable and negotiable, and what are the things that are standard that aren't going to change. Okay. It's a legitimate professional deal. Right. And so it's excellent. I never had to deal with an agent in what I do until about 3 years ago. And the problem is the internet, the NIL, and the transfer portal has created a cottage industry where it's like these people realize that they can make money off of athletes. Okay. I'm not going to be an expert on an NFL contract, but I do think I know that the fee is negotiable. It has to be a percentage-based fee, but it's negotiable between 1% and 3%. Those are pretty tight parameters. Okay. But if a person takes 4% of a contract, when you run it through the system in the state of California with income tax and everything else, 4% is a month's salary. That's a pretty hefty price to pay. And some of these people are taking 20%. Oh, I'll get you recruited. I'll do this. I'll do that. At the end of the day, they're not getting that kid recruited. That kid is getting recruited because we identified his talent. And the only agent I'm interested in talking to is his high school coach. Okay. Is I want to know what it's like to coach that young person. But all of a sudden, you've got all these people that are kind of showing up. They're kind of showing up in these people's lives saying they can help them with this and help them with that. And the people believe them, and it's not true.
Unqualified. They're not attorneys too, most of them.
Well, yeah, they're just not qualified. And there is no qualifying body. Because if you don't have a contract, If you can't make him an employee, you're not going to have a contract. If you don't have a contract, you can't have collective bargaining. And if you don't have collective bargaining, you've got no salary cap. Okay. Thus, you've got no thing like no organization like the NFLPA. So these people are called street agents for a reason. Okay. And now I'm going to be graphic with you because I don't mind being graphic, but they're just pimps. That's all they are.
The name, title of the.
Yeah.
You know, these people come in and they say, talk to my representative. I don't want to talk to the representative. I want to talk to them. There's not going to be a contract anyway.
There actually is a contract, John. Your university does provide a contract on the rev share.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Great. I'm all for it.
You just don't know about it, but there is.
Yeah. 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 All I know is when we pay them money, they better make a tackle. Some of these guys like everything about football, but football.
With respect to time, I'm just gonna ask one last question and then I'll pass it on to my colleague. But what advice would you give to someone who wants to become a sports agent?
Okay. Well, here's the deal. At the end of the day, be an attorney. Okay. All right.
Working on that.
Because I really wonder, how does a person really deal with, contracts and those kinds of things if they're not well versed in that? So that's number one. Number two, it can be a very honorable profession, right? And like I think I mentioned earlier, when I was talking to Corey, you really people start talking about agents, coaches, they want agents, players, they want agents. Well, they think that the agent is going to get them recruited. They think the agent's going to get them drafted. They think the agent's going to get them this, here's what I know. If you put a house on the market, the house is either priced right or it's not. The house either shows well or it doesn't. The house will sell itself and the market will tell you the price. So what the real estate agent is there to do, the same as the other agent, is to protect both parties with the terms of a contract. It's a very honorable profession, but it has to have standards, and it has to have I guess standards is the word I'm looking for. Standard operating procedures that everybody can agree by, that and that I think that people need to be certified, because there's a lot of young people getting ripped off because of the lack of standards and the lack of governance. Okay. And yet without standards and governance, that means that we're flooding the market with all kinds of unqualified people. So yeah, what would I say? Number one, be qualified. Number two, be an attorney, understand contracts, and then, work with integrity. And then it's an honorable profession.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass it over to Briant.
Hi, Mr. Baxter.
You're Briant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Like
thank
Bear.
Yeah, like Bear Bryant.
Okay, good. Yeah.
They might not know who Bear Bryant is, John.
So
Do you?
I don't.
Interview over.
He's one of the most famous football coaches in history.
Okay. There we go. All right, Brant, let's roll.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for joining us today. I want to switch topics a little bit, and due to time constraints, I'm only going to ask you a few questions. So we know you've had a long and accomplished coaching career and have spent decades helping athletes develop both on and off the field. We appreciate you taking the time to share your experience with us. I would like to pick your brain on mentality. So my first question is, or rather, players like Tom Brady are known for extreme discipline, diet, preparation, recovery, and attention to every detail. Do you see that kind of elite mentality in a lot of players in the college game, or is there a difference from sort of the mentality that professional players have as opposed to some of the top college players that you're coaching?
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I know. I'm dealing with 18 to 22-year-old males that play a game with a ball that's not round. Okay. So if you can put yourself back to when you were 18 years old, the question is, did you have elite study skills? Did you have elite knowledge of nutrition and, those kinds of things? And the answer is pretty much no. Okay. At 18 years old, they want to go to parties. They want to meet girls. They want to play football and they want to have fun. Okay. And we can complicate it with NIL money and everything else, but an 18-year-old is still an 18-year-old. So what you do in colleges, we had an equipment guy that was a friend of mine at USC named Tino Dominguez. And one day, Tino came up and he said, Coach, I had to pick up over 200 towels off the floor today, and wash them because these guys just couldn't throw it in the bin. And he's like, these kids don't appreciate anything. I'm like, yeah, you're right, Tino, they don't. He goes, wait, what? He wasn't ready for that response. I said, yeah, you're right, they don't. Because to appreciate something, you have to have experience with it. Okay. So they're 18 years old in their mind. They know everything. And, I know they know everything. So you just kind of stay out of their way. Okay. And, kind of let them do what they do and, whatever else. But then over time, there's no fast way to your 20th birthday. Life comes at you one day at a time. And so what you do is you try to keep these kids in a channel and you surround them with academic support. You surround them with good advice and a great relationship with a coach. You surround them with a nutritionist and a strength coach and all these types of things. And over time, they develop an appreciation for the resources you provided them and, how to use them. But hopefully, if you get them to 22 years old, at the back end of the process, they walk across the stage, they get their college degree. Maybe they're good enough to play pro sports. Maybe they're not. Okay. But hopefully you have a significantly changed person in terms of, what they know and how much they appreciate. So at the end of the day, when you're looking for an 18-year-old football player or a 17-year-old football player, it's like looking for an entry-level position for a person coming out of college. What I'm trying to do is find out, one, do they love to play? Okay. Because there's kids now and there's also coaches now who are going to do this for the money. The best pros, the Tom Brady's, they'd play for free. Okay. I'm looking for the guy who play for free. I'm looking for the guy that wants to train, that wants to get better, that wants to work out, that's hungry. And like we say here, hungry dogs hunt best. Okay. And not only hungry, but they're starving. That's what we're looking for in the evaluation process. Right. But, so hopefully to answer your question, when we're dealing with an 18-year-old, we're dealing with a young person who is 18 and all their prior experience in life is known as childhood. And it's our job to take them through young adulthood and help them appreciate, some of the things that are going to come their way, like an education.
I see. So it sounds like you take the players and you try to sort of guide them in the right direction. And then hopefully by the time they graduate, they were able to use some of the resources that you provided to them, and they're able to, be better players and better people overall.
Yeah, that's right. Because I'm not in the business of making pros. I'm in the business of making better people that are college football players. If at the end of it they're pros, then fine, they're pros. But that's not my outcome.
Okay. And then across all athletes and people you've coached, have you noticed a common mindset among the ones who become eventually exceptional and maybe go on to the NFL or to have, exceptional careers? Is there sort of a common thread or common?
Yeah, there's a very common thread. Okay. And this is what I always say. Talent is the raw material. Skill is the finished product. Okay. And so how do you go from talent to skilled? It takes passion. It takes perseverance, right? And it takes relentless grit. But if a guy doesn't have the passion and the perseverance, it's never going to work. You got to have a burning desire to get to the outcome, no matter what the obstacles are, because If you don't, the quit button's too easy. But there's a certain baseline of talent that kind of needs to be there, but talent is a very broad category. Talent could be quickness, talent could be speed, talent could be strength. Talent could be, I'm not quite as fast, I'm not quite as big, but I can outthink you, right? I can outprepare you. So that's a real broad category. But, you know, passion, perseverance, and grit go a long way.
You know, I really agree with your statement that passion is really important. Having grown up playing sports, you know, one of the things that I've realized is that, you know, all players that I've known who've made it to the pro level have just had a passion for the game, and they would have played the game for free.
Right.
And I think that's such an important quality that a player should have.
Yeah. Well, we play a game, to me, where passion trumps logic, right? This is not a math test. This is I'm lining up against you, and at some point you're going to realize, hey, we're in a ball game, and I am going to do what I got to do to beat you. And when, you know, now that my daughter's a little bit older, she's like, Dad, I love watching you on the sideline, just sitting there flexing on those guys across the way. Okay. When I prepare during the week, I will go on a hunger strike to find a way to make a play on somebody. And I'm going to spend 60 minutes trying to put that other guy in checkmate and make him say, Uncle. Okay. If you don't have that mindset, then competitive sports is not for you.
Mr. Baxter, we've run out of time here, it looks like. Thank you so much for your time. Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks for listening to Born to be a Sports Agent, where we discuss relevant legal issues, contract issues, and discuss representation for everyone in sports. This is Jill McBride Baxter, and my core values are protection, advocacy, and trust. If you are looking for representation and you need someone to take you where you can't take yourself, please go to my website at jillmcbridebaxter.com or email me at jillbaxter@me.com and set up a meeting for a free consultation. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic week. And good luck in sports.